This Scouts Own was first held at Dilwell Park, UK Scouting headquarters at 11 a.m. on Sunday the 5th of September 2021, when a commemorative plaque to Scouts Marr and Mooney was officially unveiled. The intention is to then pass on, share and hold the Scouts Own with fellow Scouts across the world, all along the original route of Quest's 1921-1922 voyage, exactly 100 years after Quest arrived at each location. This will include the Antarctic Peninsula, using a facsimile of the commemorative plaque. After returning from Antarctica, the Request 2021 team plan to hold a final Scouts Own ceremony at Ford-el-Fors, the Scottish Scouting head office, where a replica commemorative plaque will also be installed. Commemorative plaques, the inscription on the plaques reads as follows: Remember James William Slessor Marr, 1902 to 1965, and Normand Owland Mooney, 1905-1945, who took part in the 1921 Shackleton's Quest expedition. Please note that the official expedition name was the Shackleton Rowett expedition. However, like many of the expeditions of the heroic age, it was also often referred to by the expedition's ship, in this case Quest. The larger commemorative plaque was unveiled on the 5th of September 2021, marking the Request 2021 expedition to Antarctica, 100 years after two scouts sailed on Sir Ernest Shackleton's final voyage of exploration. The plaque was designed by stonemason Mark Brooks from Canterbury in Kent. The smaller replica plaque will be installed at Ford-el-Fors, Scouts HQ, Scotland, by the Request 2021 team in 2022.
The Shackleton Rowett expedition of 1921 to 1922 was financed by Shackleton's friend, the businessman and philanthropist John Quiller Rowett. They had met during their school days at Dulwich College, London. In September 1921, the expedition sailed on the ship Quest with plans to survey the islands and navigation routes of the Southern Oceans. On the 5th of January 1922, upon arrival in the island of South Georgia 100 years ago from today, Sir Ernest Shackleton, who was in ill health, died on board the Quest.
The Bus, as I knew him. An extract from the book of the Quest, 1929. The Bus, as I knew him, by Dr. Leonard Hussey, a member of Sir Ernest Shackleton's last two expeditions. To have known Sir Ernest Shackleton was a privilege, but to have worked with him, shared his hardships and his adventures, and to have secured his friendship was a privilege accorded to few. I count myself very fortunate that I was one of those few. He had a great admiration for the Boy Scout movement, so much so that he took two scouts, Marr and Mooney, with us on the last expedition on the Quest. Sir Ernest was one of the greatest Englishmen that the world has ever seen, and we lost our best friend when he went. Still, we tried to carry on as he would like us to have done, and we are never tired of talking about him and hearing of him. He is still very near to us, and in carrying on his ideals and his traditions, we feel that he is attaining true immortality, and that as long as Englishmen and English boys can appreciate a true man, Shackleton's name will be held up as an example and as an ideal. He would desire no fitter epithet than he played the game.
The Shackleton Rowett expedition was the first polar expedition to involve scouts. Following nationwide recruitment, scouts Norman Mooney and James Marr were selected to join the crew of Quest. Mooney, from Orkney, was badly affected by seasickness and returned home from Madeira a few weeks into the voyage. Upon his return to Orkney in 1921, Mooney registered as a student engineer at the Royal College of Science and Technology in Glasgow. After graduation, he took on a role as a land surveyor with the Ordnance Survey based in Southampton. In 1929, Mooney passed a colonial survey examination and he was employed by the Colonial Office as a land surveyor in Nigeria, mapping previously uncharted areas. On the 20th of November 1945, at the age of 40, he was tragically killed when an accident occurred whilst he was out surveying. James Marr, from Aberdeen, went on to become a marine biologist and polar explorer in his own right, publishing seminal work on the natural history of Antarctic krill. In 1943, Marr was selected to lead a covert mission called Operation Tabarin. Tabarin was a predecessor of the Falkland Islands Dependencies Survey, which later became the British Antarctic Survey. In 1954, Marr became one of only 18 men to have received both the bronze and silver polar medals. In 1961, he was appointed president of the Antarctic Club. Marr died at the age of 62 from emphysema and bronchopneumonia on the 29th of April 1965 at Milford Chest Hospital, Busbridge, Surrey, after a prolonged period of illness.
Thank you. Request 2021. The Kent Scouts Request 2021 Antarctica Research Project marks the centenary of the Shackleton Rower expedition. A team of 10 scouts from Kent and Scotland explore the waters and islands of Antarctica during January 2022. In keeping with the spirit of the original expedition, Request 2021 is carrying out research projects with themes of peace, heritage and environment, and aims to leave a lasting legacy to inspire young people to explore the world around them. The project itself has 10 objectives, shown on the back of these cards. The first is voyage, to participate as members of the crew on the Bark Europa on a voyage to Antarctica. The second is projects, to undertake personal projects with each team member presenting their results. Number 3 is centenary, hold centenary flag ceremonies in both the UK and Antarctica. Number 4 is plaques, unveil commemorative plaques to Scouts Marr and Mooney in England and Scotland. Number 5 is outreach, to involve young people in a series of fun and educational outreach activities. Number 6 is Thames, to host a pre-expedition PR event at Tower Bridge on Friday the 17th of September 2021. Number 7 is Plymouth, to participate in the Devon and Cornwall Polar Society centenary event in Plymouth. Number 8 is Shackleton, celebrate and pay respects to the achievements of Sir Ernest Shackleton. Number 9 is links, to build strong links with Scouts in other countries on the original expedition route. And finally, number 10 is legacy, leaving a lasting Scouting polar research legacy inspired by Scout Marr's work on krill.
The project can be summed up as 10 to the power of 3. 10 Scouting ambassadors, 8 from Kent and 2 from Scotland, sailing on a tour ship to Antarctica. 100 years after the original Shackleton Rowett Quest expedition back in 1921 and 22. Thousands of young people engaged and educated about the 3 key lessons of peace, environment and heritage to be learned from this amazing, fragile, frozen southern continent.
Shackleton's last diary entries. Ernest Shackleton died of heart failure in the early hours of the morning of the 5th of January 1922. These last diary entries recall all his thoughts as the ship approached South Georgia. 1st of January 1922. Rest and calm after the storm. The year has begun kindly for us. It is curious how a certain date becomes a milestone in one's life. Christmas Day in the raging gale seemed out of place, and I dared not venture to hope that today would be as it was. Anxiety has been probing deeply into me, for until the end of the year things have gone awry. Engines were liable, furnace cracked, water short, heavy gales, all that physically can go wrong, but the spirit of all on board sound and good. There are 2 points in the adventure of the diver. One where a beggar he prepares to plunge, one when a prince when he rises with his pearl. 2nd of January 1922. Another wonderful day. Fine, clear, slight headwind, but cheerful for us after these last days of stress and strain. At 1 p.m. we passed our first berg. The old familiar sight aroused in me memories that strenuous years have deadened. Blue caverns shone with sky glow snatched from heaven itself. Green spurs showed beneath the water, and bergs mast high came sailing by as green as emerald. Ah me, the years that have gone since, in pride of young manhood, I first went forth to the fight. I grow old and tired, but must always lead on. 3rd of January 1922. Another beautiful day. Fortune seems to attend us this new year, but so anxious have I been when things are going well, I wonder what in time difficulty will be sprung on me. All day long a light wind and a clear sky was our happy position. I find a difficulty in settling down to write. I am so much on the qui-vive, I pray that the furnace will hold out. Thankful that I can be crossed and thwarted as a man. 4th of January 1922. At last, after 16 days of turmoil and anxiety, on a peaceful, sun-shining day, we came to anchor in Grytviken. How familiar the coast seemed as we passed down. We saw with full interest the places we struggled over after that boat journey. Now we must speed all we can, but the prospect is not too bright, for labour is scarce. The old smell of dead whale permeates everything. It is a strange and curious place. A wonderful evening. In the darkening twilight I saw a lone star hover gem-light above the bay.
Following on, a poem by Robert Harding from The Book of the Quest, 1929. Why am I here? A young lad, little known to fame, refilled his pipe and poked the log fire into flame. Away on the skyline frowned a snow-capped peak. Around him lay the desert, white and bleak. The grey gull's screams were ominous to hear. Why am I here? No answer came. The cold wind moaned. The boom of cracking ice, a sound of dread. In the fire's red glow his nimble fancy roamed, and winged a hero's motto through his head. Never, never, the lost endeavour, never the lowered flag. And it merged with the roar of the waters and the blast from the icy crag. Why am I here? To do such work he nobly left behind, to tread his trail in storm and freezing wind, his ache to feel, and also strength of heart. To be like him and bear the harder part, to fight that polar mountain, stark and drear. That's why I'm here.
This is Baden-Powell's introduction in The Book of the Quest, published in 1929. Nothing is impossible. Nothing is impossible if we set our minds to it. 21 years ago, there were 25 scouts in the world. If anyone had said, well, go on and raise 2 million of them distributed in every country all over the globe, one would have said, no thank you, impossible. But the Jamboree this year will show that the impossible has been attained in the short space of 21 years. In our work with the boys, we can do a lot to lift the poorest and most hopeless out of their slough and give them hope and aspiration. We can hold up to them the innumerable histories of self-made successful men to whom, in their early days, such a future would have seemed impossible. The Scouts should be taught to kick the "im" from the word impossible. And he referred to the 3rd World Scout Jamboree in Arrow Park, Birkenhead, in England in 1929.
Thank you. 10. An extract from Into the Frozen South. Let's finish with a reading the final words from Ma in his book in 1923, Into the Frozen South. And now I can hardly believe that it was all true, yet it was true. Gloriously so. I too have seen and known and learned. I too have companioned with the great souls who helped them make our island's history. Sir Ernest Shackleton, Commander Frank Wild, and the others. All great of hearts and fearless of souls, and had been my shipmates and friends. It was a memorable year indeed, and for all time I know I must carry with me the vision of tumbling waves by day and phosphorescence breakers in the darkness. darkness, yes. The grind and below, the closing of the pack, the rush and the roar of the broken waters and the growler's feet, the hushed noises of the seals as they come to surface in the still water of the pack. And always shall I see, in mind's eye, glory of the Antarctic night, and the most poignant yet inspiring of all my memories there is of the lonely cross outlined against the whirling drive of the South Georgian fleet. The sign which remains to tell the great spirit that led us forth and died, yet lives again as a magnet to draw the brave away from the sleek comforts of life into outer worlds of daring where men may gaze in awe upon the wonders of the Lord. This was from the book Into the Frozen South. You can follow the progress of Kent Scouts Request 2021 Antarctica project on the website www.request21.org.uk, podcast www.request21.org.uk/request21-podcast, Facebook www.facebook.com/group/request21, Twitter www.twitter.com/request2021, and Instagram www.instagram.com/request2021. I'm now going to pass you.
Thank you. 5th of January, on New Year, from a letter to Francis Dunlop, 1st of January 1795. In another New Year message to Francis Dunlop, Burns's mood is again one of profound reflection. Here we see something of the poet's own creed, an inclusive outlook that is emphasized and restated throughout his verse and correspondence. Burns's universal sentiments are in many ways ahead of their time and resonate as keenly in the 21st century as they did in January 1795. What a transient business is life. Very lately I was a boy, but t'other day I was a young man, and I already began to feel the rigid fibre and stiffening joints of old age coming faster over my frame. With all my follies of youth, and I fear a few vice of manhood, still I congratulate myself on having had in early days religion strongly impressed on my mind. I have nothing to say to anybody as to which sect they belong or what creed they believe, but I look on the man who is firmly persuaded to infinite wisdom and goodness, superintending and directing every circumstance that he can happen his lot. I felicitate much a man as having a solid foundation for his mental enjoyment, a firm prop and sure stay in hour of difficulty, trouble and distress, and a never failing anchor of hope when he looks beyond the grave.